Hello everyone and welcome to the second ever episode of Cultiverse, our entertainment, film, TV, etc. podcast. This week we'll be exclusively talking about Spider-Man Homecoming. For the first 5-10 minutes we'll be going into kind of non-spoiler territory, just going about our general thoughts, and then we'll give you an update about when we can kind of go into major plot details.
Yeah.
As always, I'm Carl.
I'm Tom.
So, what were your thoughts, Tom?
My my first reactions were definitely less positive than yours. I remember
We had big disagreements about it, which just surprised me.
I think you expected me, as the screening ended, to be pretty sort of jubilant about how the film was, and I enjoyed it. There were a lot of strong elements to it, especially compared to some of the recent Spider-Man movies by Sony. So there are steps up in a lot of regard. The acting's still great. Things like that. The direction on the whole's fairly solid for a newcomer director like John Watts. But I did have a lot of issues with it. I thought there were times when a lot of the characters in the background who maybe needed development to deepen sort of Peter's life and his world didn't get as much development as I'd wanted, and that meant that when you got towards the end of the film, which obviously we'll talk about in more detail later in the spoiler section, I just felt it was hard to invest in a lot of the sort of action and the peril.
This is shocking and vile. This is shocking and vile.
Yes, I'm absolute blasphemy. I'm sure.
I thought it was amazing, and
Spectacular.
I know it was an origin story, but without. It wasn't the same one we've seen so many times.
No, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that they do not do the Uncle Ben thread at all of him.
It's almost a direct continuation of his involvement in Civil War.
Yes.
You get a lot of stuff from that. Obviously, Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. features quite a lot, but not hugely. He's
not nearly as accessibly as the trailers seem to make out.
He's in a few scenes. They're really good scenes, and interestingly, Tom Holland actually in those scenes holds his own against Robert Downey Jr.
Which we saw he could do in Civil War anyway, in terms of holding his own against so many big actors.
The main reason I loved it, without going into spoilers, is Tom Holland really gets the character. I think he's charming, he's funny. He literally is like that friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, which you may disagree with. I just think the film is really funny. Like, I didn't expect it to be as funny as it was. Almost, for me anyway, most of the jokes landed. I get he's a high schooler. I get he's really intelligent. He's charming, and his performance throughout was sort of carried the film through some of the slightly weaker elements, I thought.
Tom Holland gives a really solid performance in it. I don't think we should expect anything less after Civil War, and the humour works, and like I say, he's got a vulnerability to him despite the charm as well. He gets across that he is an outsider and things as much at the same time as he can crack a joke while in the suit and crack a joke with his mate Ned and things. So yeah, he gets that balance right, maybe a little bit better than Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield did at times.
Yeah, for sure. I think that Ned, as you mentioned, his friend in the film, he's really good in it. Liz, his love interest, without going into spoilers too much, they're really good. The supporting cast in general were excellent. Keaton is fantastic as Vulture. He's probably one of the better villains the MCU's had in a while.
Not an incredibly high bar to match.
No,
is it fair to say? But
yeah, I think he's definitely he's believable in the role he has without going to spoilers.
For reasons we can't quite discuss yet, there are certain aspects of his character that come in later in the film.
No, but it's almost like a high school comedy in a lot of ways, and it's hugely entertaining, and I thought it was very close to some of the comic book material that has been around for years now. So yeah, overall I thoroughly enjoyed the film. I don't know, there's some aspects of it, I mean, if you're going into it looking for heavy action, you might be disappointed. There's about 3 or 4, I mean, there's action sort of throughout, but it's kind of low level, street level kind of stuff.
As they'd always seem to have intended to want to do with this film, in a similar way to the Daredevils and the Luke Cages, but with a bit of a lighter tone going through it as well.
But no, I thought it was a fantastic, as I said, origin story without necessarily retreading some of the storylines we've seen before.
Yeah.
It sets up huge cataclysmic events. He's dealing with kind of more sort of street level kind of
and stuff which is personal to him. I think that was part of for what worked for me so well with Ant-Man, and at times with this too, was that sense of personal investment in the sort of world and the characters they interacted with. So when you felt for Scott Lang's sort of daughter, you know, that he was trying to leave behind his criminal past to be back together with. So when she was placed in peril, you genuinely felt an attachment to that at the end of that film. And I think this, although it doesn't always for me succeed in that, it does try and do much the same thing of you feel a personal connection on some level to these characters more so than you can to a Chitauri army or a faceless Ultron army, so it means a lot more.
Yes, I'd definitely give it a recommendation. It's got the Cultiverse seal of approval from me. I don't know if Tom would award it.
I'd give it a recommendation. Obviously, we'll talk a bit more about why, sort of on certain aspects in the spoiler section, but I would give it a recommendation. Certainly, if you're a fan of Spider-Man and you want to see Spider-Man done with a little bit more authenticity than maybe the Amazing Spider-Man films did.
How dare you?
I know, it's absolutely...
No, you recommend the original Spider-Man films if you wanted... I don't know, I think they were more authentic than Garfield's interpretation.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. There's more authenticity to Homecoming and the Maguire films, I feel, than there were...
Oh, I thought you were making an outrageous claim.
No. I don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah.
More so than 1.
I enjoyed it a lot more so than 1, just because it has a bit of visual ambition to what it does. The scene in Times Square with
vomit.
Visual vomit. No, the scene in Times Square when you've got Electro shooting lightning and it hits the bars, and you've got Spider-Man trying to get people's hands away from touching the electrified. I just think it's got a lot of flaws, that film. It's way too packed with different elements, which Homecoming doesn't suffer with nearly as much. I thought but yeah, Homecoming, I think it gives you the authenticity. That's great. It gives you a great performance from Tom Holland, like you say, Keaton as well, really strong. If you want to see Robert Downey Jr., don't go for it for Robert Downey Jr.
No, don't go for it for Iron Man 4, definitely not.
No. There's Happy Hogan features quite a lot in it, to be fair, doesn't he? John Favreau's character, he's in it more than Tony Stark, really. But anyway, yeah.
I think it does weave in those MCU elements quite nicely.
Yeah.
It's almost more so believable.
It makes it a little bit more seamless.
Yeah.
It lives within the world, but it's not at the same time dominated by kind of those other characters and other elements that we won't spoil. Recommend it to hardcore Spider-Man fans. I'd just say, if you're a casual film goer, you'll probably like it for the jokes. If you're someone who wants the film to really tug at the heartstrings, for me, it just didn't do that as much as I wanted anyway, and that would put me off recommending it to everyone. I think it goes overboard on the humour a little bit.
But I don't think it was intended to pull at the heartstrings. This is, it doesn't have the kind of emotional impact of maybe Spider-Man 1 or 2, the originals.
But Kick-Ass wasn't intended to pull at the heartstrings, and yet when you've got Nicolas Cage's character on, set alight and things, I felt sort of genuine sympathy for him and for the daughter trying to save him, but that was mainly pitched as a comedy.
But if you've got Aunt May being set alight, that may not necessarily be...
I'm not saying... Well, I mean, last week you said Samuel Tarly should just be killed by his father willy-nilly, so...
Oh, yeah, but Game of Thrones is a bit of an exception,
he's come to that natural end anyway, but, I'm not saying set Aunt May alight, I'm saying put them in danger. The Maguire films would at least put Mary Jane into some kind of danger by the end, or have Aunt May resigned to a coma, I think, by the end of the first one with the Green Goblin. There was no time I felt the film really
But I feel like it doesn't need to, and I think that would that would undoubtedly come in the sequels when he's an older, getting more experienced Spider-Man. But at this point in time...
But if it's called if he's got with great power comes with great responsibility...
That wasn't in this film, though.
No, but...
Important.
Should it have been?
No, it shouldn't.
It's fairly integral to the character.
No, but it's not as integral to the character as the wisecracking, fun, intelligent, charming Spider-Man that he starts off as. He doesn't start off as this man who's pulling bridges with both his arms, although inadvertently. But...
no.
Yeah. But I just don't think... I think the spirit of Spider-Man was more existed in this film, more so than The Amazing Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. There wasn't this emotional conceit. There wasn't anything hugely that's going to, bring you to tears. But I don't think that would have fit with the film tonally. in this high school origin comedy, I don't know if it would have worked.
No, I just think you can have the best of both worlds. A comedy can also pull at the heartstrings as well. Avengers isn't intended as an emotional film, but I defy people who got invested in Coulson not to feel sad, feel a great sort of deal of pity when he gets killed. I just felt the film could have used more of that and a little bit less. You said you like Ned. He's a really funny character. What else is he other than a funny, wisecracking character in the film?
He's the man. He's the man on the screens. He's
yeah, which comes to without spoiling it, the most dissatisfying conclusion possible.
True.
Just
you may be right, but I feel like we discussed before going in what we were kind of expecting, and I described basically what we saw, and I think so did you. But then I think maybe the emotional heartstrings weren't being,
pulled.
Is that what you take away from the film?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a perfectly decent comedy. I'm just saying what sets it apart. What sets apart a great comedy from that for me is I can feel pangs of emotion in some way in Hot Fuzz, in School of Rock, in even Dodgeball to some extent. But there are some comedies which really set themselves apart, Kick-Ass as well, for having emotion as well as the laughs. So you're getting invested in the characters as well as having a hilarious time. And I just felt Homecoming didn't have as much as that as I would have hoped.
I just felt I know I'm describing it much as a comedy, but it wasn't. It just had a lot of comedy in it. I just thought it was a really effective coming of age movie, setting up everything we need to then go on and provide the kind of emotional strengths you want. I'm pretty sure they'll come in the inevitable sequel as the kind of the ante is built up with greater villains. Spider-Man increasing his experience and maturity.
Greater villains and maybe even greater responsibility coming down the line.
That's been cut out again,
Obviously, it's going to keep getting cut out. I want my flashback to Uncle Ben, damn it. We had it in all the other films. Where was it here?
So I think we've exhausted what we can delve into in a spoiler-free fashion.
Yeah, so...
If you want to proceed, then hopefully you've watched the film. So we're probably going to just leap into specific parts of the film we couldn't get on with or really enjoyed.
Yeah. So either stop listening now if you haven't watched it, or keep listening if you don't care about spoilers, or go out and watch it and then come right on back.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing that really leaps to my mind coming out of that was I like the round of applause, not standing ovation, but when Keaton is revealed.
Not far off.
It was close to that. When Keaton's character was revealed as Liz's father, it was really funny.
I thought you said Lizard's father for a second.
Oh, that's whole new ground.
That was a great twist. As Liz's father.
What film are you watching,
Great film. I was watching
Amazing Spider-Man 1 I just saw.
Yeah. That was exactly it. I was sat with people watching Amazing Spider-Man 2. Great film.
Oh, God. So,
but
that coming out, I thought that was just, that was really funny. It was. I didn't expect it at all. It was a big surprise.
They did a great job of planting the seeds, and his name's Adrian Toomes, isn't it? The human version of him. The human version, the kind of non-costume version of him. They see that he's got a child, and he mentions it. And at first, that was kind of why I was saying. At first, it's like the Vulture's an alright villain who's got a sort of motivation, but because you never meet the daughter, the child, I was thinking, I don't really care that much about the child because I don't know who she is. So for that to be the twist that she was both hilarious and worked well.
It did serve the story. It enhanced him as a character as well, and it was painfully just so funny.
That awkwardness.
It was incredible, and Holland in particular was so good in that scene.
The photography scene, as well,
just fantastic. So that was the main thing I came out from that, the main scene that I thought that was really fantastic.
Which, admittedly, I'd say there's one... Do you remember in the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, they sort of do it, Peter's got in from, I think, a fight with the Green Goblin earlier.
And he meets...
Norman
Osborn.
Norman's come round for dinner, and he's cut himself, or he's been cut by one of the blades. It
reminded me of that a lot.
Yeah, kind of, but it's done.
It was done better in Homecoming.
To better comic effects.
Exactly, much more comic. It was more sinister, I suppose, than the original Spider-Man.
Yeah, they were going for a more sort of sinister, dramatic way of doing it, and you can do it either way, and it worked. Like you said, we had people people virtually did not stop laughing for about, in a good way,
It was
for
like
about
5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5-10 minutes. The photography scene and then the taxi scene as well. Not the taxi. When he's driving Liz and Peter to the homecoming ball. That people virtually did not stop laughing because of the sheer brilliance of how awkward but hilarious it was at the same time.
That was fantastic. There were a few things I had issue with. I'm still not a big fan of the CGI suit, which seems to take it seems to take precedent over, a normal practical suit in a lot of scenes.
Yeah.
I think Amazing Spider-Man 2, I wasn't a huge fan of either of those films, but they did seem to use a practical suit where possible.
Where they could, and I think they tried to for a lot of the Maguire stuff. Obviously, it was early 2000s CGI, but they tried to for that as well. So it would have, here they had a lot of. I felt, the scene when Peter's just left Liz's ball.
Yes.
Liz's ball, all over the place.
The high school ball.
Not that Liz's party. So
okay, yeah.
And he's going after. He's like seeing the explosion and distance, and we've had that funny moment of him running across the golf course. He can't swing. They use quite a lot of wide shots, John Watts does. So I feel like you very rarely actually see the suit up close when he's just swinging.
You do. He kind of slides across or swings across the screen very quickly.
Yeah, which is put again to comic effect. But I wondered whether almost the CGI of the eyes and everything was actually almost too costly that they didn't want to spend too long.
I was thinking that quite possible. That's quite a funny scene when he lands in front of those children in the tent.
Yes,
and his eyes have gone all but that was fantastic.
Yeah,
I just thought some of those little things like that were just really funny.
The little touches, little scenes or clips that lasted a couple of minutes and were reliant around one gag or one recurring idea. The use even of at first the kind of mundane idea of they've got a Captain America.
Oh, those training videos.
They kept that going through the film, and obviously for those of you've all seen it now, hopefully the post-credits scene, the very last post-credits scene, probably one of the best. They were
really good.
Post-credits,
and that's where the kind of the license and the deal with Marvel kind of reaps its reward, and those small little things like that.
Absolutely, but yeah, so you surround the CGI problematic on the suit sometimes.
Yeah, I mean it didn't detract from my enjoyment of the film, but I just felt like I don't know if it will age as well as other films. And I think a lot of the time they could have used a practical suit in more of it, but
and I thought they might because Tom Holland can. I mean, maybe they did for more than we know, and they just put CGI on the eyes. But Tom Holland obviously can do parkour and things like that. We've seen
of course.
He does a backflip over a bed at one point in the film. So
I don't know if he does that. I mean, that might be. I'm assuming he didn't just. Did he train to do backflips, and that's how? I'm assuming that was mirrors and smoke.
Maybe it was smoke. Yeah, maybe it was smoke and mirrors. I know he can, like from seeing some of his videos online, he can.
So he can do backflips.
Yeah, he can do backflips and all stuff like that.
Well, maybe that is him.
Yeah, he did a backflip in the Rihanna. Is it Rihanna, the umbrella lip sync battle thing he did against Zendaya a few weeks ago?
What? Yeah. Right.
So he can do stuff like that. But anyway, other than his parkour abilities.
Yeah, as you mentioned briefly, the action sequences weren't anything special. Maybe I don't know.
I think they were incredibly well directed. We've got a guy who I think I can't recall all the films he's done. I think he did one called Cop Car a little while back, which I believe had some action to it, but it didn't feel like this was a director as much as Kenneth Branagh or Joss Whedon or some of the directors we've had who've clearly had some time spent with action in one way or another. And
Tom, for the audience, just name dropped Kenneth Branagh,
who directed the marvelous
Thor,
the marvelous Thor, the mighty Thor. Even
for anyone listening to this, you'll be well aware that Thor was an average film at best.
A little bit harsh, yeah. This is,
and Tom regards it as the Godfather,
Not quite.
Streetcar Named Desire.
It's,
and then,
well, I haven't seen either Godfather or
Have you not?
Named Desire, so maybe that tells you why I hold films like Thor in such high regard. I've got that list of my infamous endless list of films. Classics to watch. I enjoy Thor. I like the fish out of water elements. I think it's one of the better MCU films of the lot.
Anyway, that was just a side note.
Yeah, don't listen to those blasphemous views at all.
Definitely going from what we saw Spider-Man do in Civil War and the airport scene, going from that to this, it did seem like a bit of a step down in terms of the kind of the scale and what we could expect. But I don't think the film was worse off for it.
No, I don't think at the end of the day it wasn't built to be completely action based. You know, it was built to be, by the sounds of what we've been discussing, a mixture of action, a mixture of comedy, some coming of age elements. So it didn't rely too heavily on that, just in the same way it didn't rely too heavily on Tony Stark.
And I really enjoyed how in previous Spider-Man films they're normally in Manhattan swinging around big skyscrapers. In this film, you're in Queens. He's on trains riding around. Like he struggles to kind of swing. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that a lot.
Tony Stark at one point says, "Keep your feet on the ground." Well, he has no trouble doing
exactly.
that.
There's not many buildings for him to,
No,
especially when he's in the suburbs for Liz's party.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's just running around, just frantically trying to get out, which I thought was really good.
Going flying into that swimming pool and things en route to find the vulture. No.
My main concern for the film is I really enjoyed it. It's what I thought it would be going in. But going forward, some of the stuff that worked best in this film was kind of the humour, like the college stuff. The high school stuff, all of that stuff, and going forward, the stakes will undoubtedly be lifted. You probably get more integrated with Infinity War, and we'll see how he's affected from that. But
and he's actually the first. His next film is the first film after the Infinity War pair of films end. So he is the first film. We're going to see what the MCU looks like through Spider-Man. So it could be, like you say, raised stakes, something quite different after he's helped fight Thanos.
I just don't know if it'll work as well as a really serious Spider-Man. I'm hoping it will. I should be able to adapt just as Tom Holland gets older, the character gets older, he gets more experience.
We had it with Harry Potter. If you sort of think of the early Daniel Radcliffe in Philosopher's Stone.
True. You wouldn't expect it to get as dark, but then obviously it plunges.
You get to Prisoner of Azkaban and Goblet of Fire, and it starts getting progressively darker. But they can manage it. You just have to have writers who are able to deal with that evolving tone without losing the heart of the character along the way. If the comics have been going for 50, 60 years of Spider-Man, I'm sure it's perfectly possible to do it.
It'll be interesting to see how he interacts with Tom Hardy's Venom, if they ever do.
Yes, if they ever do actually manage to cross over in that weird kind of arrangement they have.
It doesn't seem to be as well thought out as some of the MCU stuff.
No, but I feel like Marvel are totally content right now to let Sony kind of do these films that aren't attached to the MCU. So if they bomb, it can't damage the credibility
of course,
of the MCU at all. So that I don't think that's too much of a problem. I'd like more of the. I think I said to you as we came out of the film, I would like more of the college, high school stuff.
Yeah, that's what you said. That's stuff you enjoyed.
Just because, again, I felt. Again, we're in spoiler territory. By the end of the film, Liz heads off to live elsewhere because
she's going upstate or something.
Something like that, because her dad's obviously on trial and he doesn't want her to be there to see that. I just think they spend more time in the Maguire and Garfield films with Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy, that however contrived Gwen Stacy's death is in Amazing Spider-Man 2, you feel you get more of an emotional sort of reaction to that than you do with Liz sort of, being slightly tearful and asking Peter for the umpteenth time in the film, why are you withholding all these secrets? I just don't, again, it's to do with character development, they don't really do that much with her other than bring in the great sort of gag of her father being the Vulture. You could have done it even more with her sort of having a plight. Of course, Harry in the original Spider-Man trilogy had Peter, had killed his father, and that led to an arc over the course of 3 films. I would have liked to felt more for Liz in some way, and felt more for Ned, like I said, than him just cracking jokes. So maybe, and I spoke with some people on social media about this afterwards. One person who I don't think we've talked about in terms of the film's strength, I don't know if you agree, was Zendaya.
She wasn't in it much, but what the small amount of scenes she was in, really good.
She had lots of great one-liners, or even just gags that did not involve her speaking at all, just the drawing she did and things like that. And I almost wonder whether halfway through production they might have realised, Zendaya is great in this, but we're too far through production to give her loads of new scenes, and so hopefully with the revelation at the end that she's seemingly the MCU equivalent of MJ, that maybe next time we're going to get, well, if she's MJ, you would think we're going to get a lot more development.
Yeah, I think she'll be the primary focus in terms of his romantic and social
entanglement.
Yeah,
I think it could be Betty Brant. Do you remember she was in the videos early on, and she's like, "No, I've got a date to homecoming," and that guy's like, "Oh, it's cool." And
I think she'll probably undoubtedly find out about his identity in the next film, maybe.
Quite possibly, or maybe
be
they
heavily involved,
drag that out,
or she'll be kidnapped, or some dastardly scheme.
MJ has got to be kidnapped at some point in every single film. Kirsten Dunst will tell you exactly.
No, she was good, and I thought they really helped sell that school, like everyone who was involved in that. But I think if you'd put too much focus on the ancillary characters, you wouldn't have as much on Spider-Man, Peter Parker himself. So I didn't mind it too much. I mean, going forward, obviously you want to expanded time with those guys, but I liked you kind of almost saw the film through his eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You felt what he was feeling, and there wasn't anything like cataclysmic. There wasn't. It was just I quite liked it. It wasn't high stakes kind of Suicide Squad.
Oh, I love me some.
It wasn't a high. It wasn't anything like that.
It wasn't high stakes. As I said, I feel like Ant-Man wasn't high stakes. I just felt you had that emotional, high personal stakes by the end of it, of the threat of losing his daughter. Considering Liz was the Vulture's daughter here, I thought would sort of the Vulture and Peter have to be deciding between sort of do they fight or do they risk her getting hurt in some collateral damage situation. I didn't feel that wasn't really off of that at all.
Yeah, you are right. I mean, who was inevitably, if Spider-Man had not acted, who was the victim in that? Was it the transporting plane full of Avengers gear?
Was that on autopilot? I don't know.
It must have been because there was no one on. No. So
Tony Stark can control his suit from nations away.
Presumably, Vulture just wanted that stuff for his own personal gain to sell.
Yeah, I think it was something along the lines of the guy in his ear. I think it's meant to be the Tinkerer or something like that. Was saying if you take even one of these crates, that will be enough to kind of keep you and your family going for life.
Yeah. His some of his intentions weren't entirely clear, and I wasn't sure if the transition from him being this kind of working class kind of hero guy to what he comes sort of 8 years later, this Vulture, it seemed a bit, I don't know, a bit jarring.
And it was quite literally and abrupt. It wasn't 8 years later.
Yeah, and then he comes in,
he said it all
suddenly
up.
He's sort of this not master villain, but he's but his. I think if any other actor had tried to do that, it would not have worked as nearly as well.
Do you think they should maybe have done, because of course they mentioned the fact that when Damage Control come in to stop him and his workers kind of taking down the equipment.
Of course,
they mentioned Tony Stark as being the funder. I suppose it's part of the point that he and Tony never meet. But do you think, given his residual sort of anger towards Tony as being the one responsible for him essentially losing his job and having to go to a life of crime, do you think him and Robert Downey Jr. should have maybe shared a scene in terms of kind of that?
I don't know.
Given him a little bit more to
it was almost like this underlying kind of class warfare. It's kind of one of the themes of the film. It was like he's up there with his big tower, but we're down here cleaning up all the mess. And
of course Peter's journey in deciding.
I don't think he should have shared a scene with Iron Man, with Stark. I don't think it was necessary, but maybe going forward it might. I'm not sure.
Because of course he does survive to the end of the film. I thought they might do a Norman Osborn and kill him off, but he's.
Yeah, I had a feeling he might not survive the film actually.
Maybe they felt that would be too reminiscent of Spider-Man 1, where you do have Harry Osborn going, Spider-Man killed my father, whether Liz would have gone, Spider-Man killed my dad, even though he was the Vulture. So maybe they were trying not to repeat tropes, and clearly he's still involved in the universe in some way, because we saw him in the mid-post-credits scene as well.
Yeah, there was I didn't feel there was too many tropes in this film at all, really.
No.
But in terms of like those themes, as I said, there's kind of underlying kind of class warfare thing, and almost a bit like what they did in Civil War. The people were kind of damaged by the Avengers and the stuff like that, the kind of collateral damage that you don't necessarily see.
The aftermath.
Yeah, and I thought that worked quite
consequences.
well. And some of the scenes with Peter Parker going into the shop, ordering the food, I liked all that. All the stuff that him kind of going around Queens, kind of his daily life.
And you said with that food shop scene, admittedly, you said about tropes. When there was a bank robbery nearby,
those are the ones who got
the Avengers masks, and they started stealing the equipment there, didn't they? And they blew up
the
nearby
shop.
the food shop. I didn't know if they were going to do an Uncle Ben moment there, where
I was
the
thinking
food
that.
shop owner was going to die. And
I was
then
thinking
if
he'd
that
done
was
a die
what-
in his arms, and it would kind of spurn him on to be more, I don't know, righteous or
Yeah.
angry, or
You could have a sequel. The food shop owner appears
Yeah.
in the flashbacks instead of Uncle Ben, but
he's got the best. What was it? The best sandwich in Queens, or whatever. It's something like that.
Yeah.
Best. I also liked when Spider-Man's interrogating that other criminal, and he does it awfully. Does it awfully, but he ends up kind of just charming him into revealing the information.
yes,
So that's really good.
to get the Vulture's whereabouts. Is that when he's trying to? Is it the Ellis Island scene it leads to, or is it later in the film? Yeah, No, I thought that works really well. Both actors played. I think the other actor was Donald Glover, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I believe there was an up and coming name who played the character who Peter
might be
was
right,
going
yeah,
up
yeah.
against. But anyway, they struck up sort of this great rapport of, like you say, Holland's Spider-Man being totally unable to intimidate this guy in any way, shape, or form. That worked great, and I think they should keep that going, keep him learning as well, but have that naivety sort of still be a part of the character.
I was wondering if whoever actually go and work for a newspaper and take photographs and stuff. I'm wondering if they were ever.
Well, you said about tropes, if they'd gone for the standard J. Jonah Jameson,
I want pictures of Spider-Man.
Yeah, I want it now. Just have someone trying to imitate J.K. Simmons, or just have him be the convergence between the two universes. Have J.K.
But if he's going to be such a good photographer, his video vlogging skills weren't the best in the first
Where
10 minutes of the film.
that though these days?
Yeah, maybe he'll be a YouTuber or something instead of a photographer. Maybe he'll be on video team and like doing SEO and.
That would be absolutely great. Nothing I want to see more than Peter whipping out those Google Analytics. And
He's on his RSS feeds and he's checking everything out.
It's exactly what I pictured a modern day Daily Bugle doing. It's just trawling.
Or he's a
SEO.
freelance photographer and he takes pictures for Reuters and then he gets his commission.
Absolutely,
That's fine.
I want him. Yeah, I want all the film to just be him emailing different news agencies, like
Please
pitting them
buy my
against-
work. Yeah.
pitting them against each other. That's what the next one should be.
Yeah.
But lots
It's early days. I mean, you've still got time for him to grow up and discover all these tropes.
going forward, or try and do something different. I mean, every film is going to have some tropes to it, but
Of course.
there are ways you can go past it, and hopefully having the connections to the MCU will mean even if they can't come up with the most original storyline themselves, they can bounce off, as they've done here with Avengers and Civil War, bounce off events beforehand. They'll have had Infinity War before the next Spider-Man film to give them a bit of impetus to go forward there, and hopefully continue his journey going forward into that.
What are your kind of predictions for his role in Infinity War?
Well, I mean, Kevin Feige initially has said recently it's probably going to, over the course of the two films, amount to around the same time as he was in Civil War.
Also quite minimal.
So quite minimal, but in fairness, you think of the amount of characters they're going to have to juggle there.
Everyone's going to be quite minimal besides the big stars.
Besides the sort of
Iron
main...
Man, Captain America, you
Exactly,
assume.
the main Avengers. I think Scarlett Johansson said that at one point they had about 30 kind of other major actors all sharing a scene together, so I'm sure Tom Holland's Spider-Man will feature there. I think he'll just feature in maybe a street level capacity for a bit. He might be part of the team who's responsible for making sure if Thanos has an army invading, then they're helping to fight them back, whilst you've got the main Avengers and the Guardians obviously taking on Thanos as well. I'd expect him to bring a bit of levity to it. It could be Thanos is connected to the god of death, so there could be some pretty grim material coming in these Infinity War
We hope
films.
so.
I feel like
There needs to be a culling, Tom. These salaries are getting out of control.
there needs to be a culling, not just of fictional characters, but of course real.
Oh yeah, real life as well.
Real life actors.
7 billion people.
Marvel. Oh yeah, that too. But I more meant just Marvel going. We can't afford to pay these actors as much anymore.
Isn't the budget 1 billion and 300 million is dedicated to just salaries and paying writers and stuff? I think it's around that figure.
299, and that probably dedicated to Robert
Downey
Jr. and the other.
He's just being selfish, really. He should especially his contribution in this film. It's probably about 5 minutes of screen time.
5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah,
it really wasn't much.
They shouldn't. I mean, he got paid a lot for being in this film. He shouldn't be paid that much.
I want to know how much. What's her name? Who plays his wife? I think now is Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts. Now she got a credit billing about
so
half
she was
of
about the fifth name to come up in the credits.
It's like, I want to know how much did she get paid to come
She's
back
not
to
been
that
in.
role?
Was she in Civil War?
No, they literally pitched it as them having relationship problems, and
but they had relationship problems in Avengers 2 as well.
Did they?
Or no, I don't know if they did, because he claimed that
he said
because they're in that scene drinking in Stark Tower, and then he's like, "Oh, where's?"
They asked her, "Where's Pepper?" and where's
she's off
Jane
doing
and...
something.
Yes, I think.
Oh, they're competing about it. I think actually, aren't they?
Yeah. And then they get across the idea that Tony, and he says it in Civil War, Tony told Pepper at the end of Iron Man 3, "Gonna blow up all my suits. I'm done with being Iron Man." Then of course goes back into it in Avengers: Age of Ultron, and then goes back into it for Civil War, and that leads to them breaking up. But magically, they seem to have.
They're fine now.
Reunited here.
She needs the money.
She needs that. She needs those dollars. So, I'd love to know how much that got paid. How about you? What predictions have you got for Infinity War and things how Spidey might be?
I think I agree with you. I think he'll probably bring their sort of comic relief. He's going forward in stage. What is this for of the universe coming up?
Infinity War is the end of Phase 3.
End of 3, going to 4. I assume he'll eventually be kind of drafted in to become the de facto kind of, not maybe the leader, but the draw going forward as, I don't know, Robert Downey Jr. retires a bit more.
You're thinking leader of the Avengers kind of thing?
I think so. I think maybe not in this, maybe like 10 years' time we're talking, because these films are getting a bit ridiculous in terms of the cast and stuff. Yeah. And they might have to probably recast or reinvent a lot of these characters. Maybe a female Iron Man going forward. Who knows?
Or give him a rest. Or female.
Just give him a rest. They can just be around.
With Logan and things like that.
I'm assuming he'll just bring this kind of bit of levity, bit of comedy to the film, which could, end up being quite dark. I just don't know that. I have such hesitation about that film because it's sort of the culmination of years and years, and it could be incredible. It could be amazing, but
it's got so much pressure on it.
It's got so much pressure. I don't know. I don't know how you'd even start writing that. That is
No.
I thought even going back years before the first Avengers came out, I thought, really, you're gonna get such a big team and it's gonna be satisfying, and Josh Whedon managed to do it.
And we've got the Russo brothers here who, I didn't think Civil War was perfect, but they managed a big cast there.
Oh, I think Civil War was perfect.
Civil War was perfect. Homecoming was perfect.
I'm easily pleased.
Forget, I love Thor. So,
Thor is the.
I've got great taste.
I mean, if Infinity was as good as Thor,
that's
I won't be happy, but you will be.
Yeah, I'm a man of low expectations. You give me a Thor, I'm perfectly happy. But the Russos did the Winter Soldier again, quite a decent sized cast of some big names there. Robert Redford as well. They can handle a big cast, so I just hope they can take that forward.
Over 2 parts, it should be fine.
Should be ample time there to do it, so long as they've structured it. I think they're going to have the 2 films be separate enough as there's a year between them, so it's not going to necessarily be a previously on Avengers type thing. They can. So yeah, they just need to try and create 2 satisfying films that balance the cast without it feeling really geared towards certain members or really kind of too many cooks situation either.
I think it's all riding on Thanos. He needs to be believable, evil. He needs to be kind of charismatic. He needs to really carry the kind of the weight of that film to have any kind of dramatic tension or anything.
And on the basis of not much screen time at all yet, at least
he's had a few post-credit sequences and not much else.
A couple of scenes in there, but that's been it. I'd imagine because obviously before Avengers 1 you had Loki and Thor. Loki probably had more screen time in the original Thor than Thanos has had. But I'm not sure on that. But than Thanos has possibly had
He's
in
not
the
had
MCU
much.
so far. So you had a bit more investment in Loki as a
This
sort
is
of
this
a
is
tragic villain
yeah.
than you do right now in Thanos.
There's a lot of build up for this. It's got to be good, and I won't accept it if it's not.
Obviously,
That's what it is.
you've got those high expectations for me. If it's a Thor, for you, if it's a Homecoming. That's
Anyway, back to Homecoming. I suppose we just sort of wind up our closing thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a breath of fresh air. Quite similar to Ant-Man in many ways. Very comical. A much needed kind of reinvigoration for the character, because I think a lot of people were getting a bit saturated with that storyline.
I think Sony needed this to work in
and
some form.
on a wider scale, Sony really needed another kind of surefire property to really start, not making bad films with, and making money.
Yeah, it's always nice when you make money, isn't it?
So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd recommend it. But then if you're listening to this podcast, you hopefully would have seen it anyway. Otherwise, you've listened to us tear it apart for the last.
Absolutely spoil every single aspect of it.
And I'm Tom Holland can't do anything wrong in my eyes. He's perfect.
No, naturally not. Of course, you met Tom Holland.
Yeah, funny. I met him in a pub in Leicester Square. He I'm not trying to brag here, but no. So I was getting a picture with Dean Chapman, who played Tommen Baratheon in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And then Tom Holland just, photo bombs my photo, and I was really angry. I was like, "Who is this guy? Why has he just jumped in front of my photo, like behind me?" And then I looked to my left, and it's Spider-Man. And I was like, "I don't want to pick a fight with Spider-Man."
Well, I mean, I would.
You wouldn't advise it.
You did pick a fight with Spider-Man just for that. You'd be a legend by now, but
yeah. So I didn't pick a fight with Spider-Man, but no, I had a little 10-second chat with him. Really nice guy, just out on the sesh with a few drinks.
Yeah.
He was enjoying his night.
Making the most of the
He's
last bits of free time.
about our age or my age.
Yeah,
born in
he's
'96.
Young old actor, isn't he? So he's all the more credible then that he holds up against the older actors.
Yeah, fantastic. Whoever cast him deserves a medal and a beer.
Yes,
for sure.
They can join him down at the pub with you.
Well, they can, exactly.
They can find him on Leicester
I
Square
should have given him my number. Really, we could have hung out. We could have been friends.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Maybe next time.
What are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Overall, fairly positive. It's not. It isn't a bad film in any way. God knows we've had a fair few bad films.
We know them
year.
well.
We've had Alien Covenant. We've had well. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, The Mummy. We've had Assassin's Creed. There have been quite a few films that I'm sure I've missed off. Even worse films. Transformers, of course, that's even worse than all of those put together. We've had some dire films this year. This is not one of those. This is an enjoyable film. Like I said, Holland gives a great performance. Downey Jr. is fun in the background. Keaton's brilliant in it. I just feel that certain recent MCU films have done a little bit more. Even if the villains have still been forgettable, and they have been compared to Keaton, they did a little bit more to get you involved with some of the secondary characters than this film did. Doctor Strange having Chiwetel Ejiofor's character, is it Caecilius or something like that?
Caecilius. Yes.
I don't remember them, but whoever Ejiofor played, the sort of mentor to Doctor Strange, aside from Tilda Swinton, he went on an arc. He went on from the point of being very kind of secure in his beliefs that everything that had been done here was right, to the point where the Ancient One was showed to actually have used dark magic herself by the end, and that sent him on a path towards the post-credit scene of feeling that magic has done too much harm to the earth. I just felt he went on a journey.
That was quite generic journey.
Spider-Man
did go on a journey.
Spider-Man went on a journey. And
his journey,
but
admittedly,
no one else in the film went on a journey.
But it's Spider-Man: Homecoming. It's not.
But it was Doctor Strange. But the Ancient One still went on a journey, and you're allowed to give other characters. Kick-Ass is called a Kick-Ass, but Hit Girl goes on a hell of a journey.
No, of course. But I don't know. Admittedly, his journey was, I want to be an Avenger. Now I don't want to be an Avenger. I want to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. That was kind of his went.
And he did enough to it. He did enough to let that happen. All I'd say is, for future films, I'd like to say, remember that a Spider-Man film can let other characters go on some form. Harry Osborn goes on a journey, however warped, in Spider-Man 3, to the point where he's willing to sacrifice himself when fighting brilliantly rendered Venom. He still goes on a journey of some sort, and you feel pity when Harry dies. So I just feel like you can remember that for future.
I felt pity when I finished watching Spider-Man 3.
Well, I think we felt pity for anyone who had to be involved, particularly Tobey Maguire having to do that dancing scene.
I actually think it's underrated, Spider-Man 3. It's still poor.
It's got its moments, Spider-Man 3.
I think that's some good moments.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so I enjoyed it. Like I say, enjoyed it on the whole. Would recommend it to Spider-Man fans. Obviously, if you're an MCU fan, I'm sure you've already been to see it by now. Don't go expecting, it's something I told people on Twitter after watching it, don't go expecting any Infinity War teasers, because they're not, once again, there's no sign of any. It's all played to comic effect what is there, and that works well. Yeah, just don't go in expecting, in my opinion, a film with too much character development outside of Spider-Man, or too much heart in the way that, say, Ant-Man did or the Avengers did at times. Would be what I'd say.
I disagree.
My opinions are totally wrong there. Ignore what I just said, but
ignore that.
Yeah.
But I've had my bit anyway. So I guess we'll thank you all for tuning in this week.
Yeah, no. Thanks for tuning in
our next episode, we'll be talking about the Doctor Who finale. Mm-hmm. We also have different opinions about that as well.
You wouldn't want anything different from us, really.
And we'll also be talking about a lot of the big entertainment news that came out. Mm-hmm. There's been some big stuff, but
Rick and Morty, we've got a load of different things to be talking about. Jumanji, so yeah, absolutely. We'll look forward to seeing you in our next episode.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. See you soon.
I'm sad we don't have our our usual crap ending. We talk about random things.
Yeah,
fade that out.
We're not talking about random things now. So
we could use this.
We could use this.
This could be used.
All of this could exactly.